Wanna know where is my tool bucket? Who took it from me? Broke into my house that night and stole from me. Using up blowtorches, quite insanity. Then got a rock and threw it through the window, the back door window. Snuck into the house, that foolish bucket foe. Took it to the pawn shop to get money. Need your hands here now. Hey dude man, coolest thing around. Got my show now. You're my hands right now. This is Adam Sheffield. Welcome to American Heritage Center Radio, home of the Property Therapy and Talent Development Program.
Today's show is about the morale of the property therapist that can be affected with faith orientation and good music and good food. Along those lines with faith orientation, we have with us today Jeff Foli, the first mayor, a libertarian mayor that was ever elected to any political office in a partisan election in Missouri history. It's never happened since then or before then. And he was originally elected as a Republican and then as a Libertarian. And then we're going to listen to my first radio show that I ever made 20 years ago. And this show is brought to you by La Plaza Restaurant, the best Mexican food, the best Latin food in Kansas City.
It's awesome. We had it a couple weeks ago, right before the show. We had to go down there and check out our new sponsor and check them out with our taste buds. And mine were all thumbs up.
Bowie Bird approves.
That's right. And the bodega next door with all the Mexican goods, imported, authentic Mexican supplies for your what do we see, a piñata and the water you just told, the
Olivine.
The Olivine water. That's right. Good stuff there. You can go shop the store while you wait for your food to get prepared. But yeah, let's get Jeff on the phone.
We are here with Jeff Foli. He is a two-term mayor of the city of Chillicothe, and he was the only libertarian person to hold political office to win a political election in, is it Missouri history?
Yeah, but in a partisan election, yes.
In a partisan election. So you ran first as...
I ran first as a Republican for a 2-year term, and then the second term as a Libertarian, and I won both elections.
And so Jeff played months ago, for those that have been in the show, he played months ago the character of Joseph Smith. And when you were mayor and you've been giving Mormon history tours up in Chillicothe, up north in Gallatin, Jamesport, up in that area for 20 years.
Correct. I was raised in Chillicothe. I had no idea when I was young that the Mormons, and being a Mormon, a Brighamite Mormon, I had no idea that people from Chillicothe were the ones that followed through on the infamous extermination order of Governor Boggs. It was the Chillicothe militia that attacked Hans Mill and killed 17 on October 30th, 1838. So I came to find out this information actually after I became the mayor. I found a lot of details, and I think they're very important, and I do history tours to share the other side of the understanding, not because I'm not trying to belittle the Mormons' perspective, but the people from Missouri had a different outlook on Mormons than the Mormons thought they did. The Mormons felt like, we're the good guys and everybody should get along with us and they should, not have problems. But we as the Mormons had enormous problems, and it exploded with the people from Chillicothe. So I happened to be a Mormon mayor elected to the city that attacked Hans Mill. And I apologize to the Mormon church, but it turned out interesting. And it's not so much just the past, but the future of the Mormons' outlook for Missouri, the future of a Zion. They were trying to create a Zion back then, and it collapsed. And we didn't know how to work with other people or to get along with other people. And once we shattered into different sects, different groups of Mormonism, We learned even less how to get along and understand each other. But what amazes me is once I bought a house in Independence, Missouri, I came to understand the fantastic things that have went on over the last 200 years and how that unity might come about. But it doesn't come about through ignorance. Understanding we created a lot of our own problems. That doesn't hurt us. That actually helps us understand. And it's not to point fingers at the Mormons for their wrongs or their imperfections, but just to understand where we came from and how we got to be where we are. So there's some amazing people, and the Strangites, the Bickertonites, the Hedrickites, the Whitmerites, the Cutlerites, the Native Americans, the RLDS, the Mormon LDS from Utah is the biggest sect, and but we still, even amongst our shattered branches of Mormonism, we still have trouble getting along and learning to understand and love each other. But that's one of my main focuses and goals that I'm trying to come to understand. So I got my doctorate here in Independence and in Mormon history, theology, Mormon history. So I love it here, and I think this is a fantastic place, and I see so many incredible things. And my history tours have been going on 20 years, and I have very interesting characters on my tours that non-Mormons whose families were part of the militia, part of the mobs, and they have interesting stories to tell as well. And again, the bottom line is it helps us gain clarity and understanding. It's a lot of people are very uncomfortable with seeing both sides of the equation and understanding that there are certainly problems. The Mormons, when I was raised as a Brigham Young University graduate, we looked at all the bad things of the other side, and we didn't really look at too many of the problems that we ourselves had and created. So I think those things are important.
Yeah. There was the saints here were some aggravating some of the locals unnecessarily, poking them in the eyes with swiping cannons and destroying the press and things of this nature. That could be that's one of the property therapy issues of disappearance or swiping a property, like the cannon. I remember on the tour, tell us the story about the cannon. And this would be a property.
Well, I had no idea.
I
had no idea that on October 21st, 1838, Joseph Smith and 100 men came to Chillicothe and stole the county cannon from the first sheriff. The next day, the sheriff put a militia together, and 9 days later, he attacked Haun's Mill. He was on his way to Carthage, Illinois on June 27th, 1844 with 1,500 men to kill Joseph Smith. And he received in Shelbina, Missouri, a note from a runner that said Joseph Smith had already been killed. And that's not the only instances that the sheriff of Chillicothe had with Joseph Smith. And he was very angry with Joseph. I don't share his animosity toward Joseph Smith, but I understand it, sadly, and that was a big part of our problems. So
cannons were.
But yeah, we did. The Mormons took the cannon from Chillicothe, and the Chillicothe militia with 240 men attacked Haun's Mill just after the cannon was taken. So
the Haun's Mill was a massacre when a bunch of Mormons had come together in the mill and gathered in the mill, and they just point blank put the rifles in the mill and just shot them in like fish in a barrel.
Exactly. And the challenging thing, the thing that we really fail to realize is that we often repeat history, and many of the LDS type peoples are repeating pieces of history and being unable to deal and cope with the local non-Mormon facet of society. So if there's truly to be a heaven on earth and a coming together of the Zion type community, we as the Mormons will certainly have lessons to learn and learn to work and associate and love our other brothers and sisters, mostly Christian in the Western Hemisphere here. So
I remember when I was up there on with one of your tours, and Charlie Peniston is one of the farmers from the local stock there that's been there for hundreds of years, and he's saying about the Mormons, what they have, the locals viewed it that if Joseph Smith received a revelation that he was entitled to your donkey, then he got the donkey.
And there's a lot of truth to that. I got to tell you, I went to Brigham Young University, and I lived in a house with 5 single roommates, and one of the girls from the church came in, and she said, I had a dream or a vision last night, and so, Mark, you're supposed to marry me. And I've heard those things from the locals in Caldwell and Livingston County, where their great-great-grandparents said those very things that you said, Adam. And it's an eerie feeling to see that there are facets of our personalities and our culture that still show small things that led to some real problems. So that's just how the other side saw it. I'm not saying it's completely true, but though there is a lot of truth to small facets of imperfections, they grow into big monsters. So
no, that's something about that. You can receive a prompting about such and such, but the other person has to receive a confirmation and check in with the Lord whether they confirm that. And I remember one time in the church when I grew up in the Mormon church, they called my dad to a position in the church and extended the calling to him. And my dad went and prayed about whether he should accept the calling, and he didn't confirm that he should receive the calling. And he told that to the one of the leader, the brother in there, and they're like stunned. And I was reading through these quotes for this Mormon theology book, and it says in there, if you're extended this calling, you have no choice but to accept this calling. I'm like, you have to confirm whether something is of God or something is appropriate, because something like someone can extend something, and maybe the Lord prompted that to occur to bring something out in some other way, but you still have to confirm, to receive that something is of God or whatnot. And so a lot of the locals here in Missouri and back in the 1800s were just, it was spooky in some way. Like the interactions, it was just, they were seeing that the Mormons were able to sway all the elections. That's another one of the things going on there, the ability to vote as a block, right?
Right. Well, there's also Joseph Smith was in Liberty Jail in Liberty, Missouri for several months in the winter of 1839, just after the Hans Mill Massacre. And he was in prison for many, many atrocities. All kinds of attempted murder, larceny, and all kinds of things. And I've got to tell you the truth. All those charges were true. Not against Joseph Smith, but of other people in the Mormon Church had actually committed some of these atrocities, and Joseph himself had not done it. He wasn't near the people that did it, but there were all kinds of crazy things going on with many Mormons who, there weren't cell phones and there wasn't television. News was slow to travel, you got to get on a horse and send the news, to wherever. So, I feel sad that all these things occurred and the Mormons were thrown out of Missouri. I mean, I do Amish tours I do the Mormon history tours with the Amish, the German Baptists, the Mennonites, the Hutterites, the different groups. My buddy Jake, he's a former Mennonite, or former Amish, and the Amish and the Mennonites and the Hutterites, all these people are able to stay in Missouri and come and settle. The Mormons tried to settle here, and there's a saying that says if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. The Mormons, they moved from place to place, always always experiencing persecution from their standpoint, but the locals didn't see it as persecution. In fact, Sidney Rigdon, sadly, one of the Mormon leaders, was the first to talk about extermination, and the state of Missouri illegally brought extermination to the Mormons, and the word used by a Mormon was actually used against the Mormons. So we should be careful about our thoughts, our deeds, and our act, our words, our deeds, and thoughts. All those things can affect us, so we should learn to be careful, and I as well. So, but the Mormons are good people, and the Mormons need to learn how to interact and appreciate people of difference and people that think differently than them. But anyway,
they when you take the fall for all sorts of things, there's a word for this where it explains a lot of complicated things going around. It's captured in one term. It's like saying it's called metonym, and it's like saying the White House said this. When there's all the sorts of people involved in the White House, all sorts of people, that agencies, staffs, people, and they say metonym. It's a metonym. White House is a metonym for the executive branch. There on the Pennsylvania Avenue, and the president and all his cabinet. For simplicity, they'll say that's White House. That's a metonym. And so Joseph Smith became a metonym for all this shenanigans that were going around. He just became the fall person on this. But in a large extent, though, this was the top heavy aspect of the corporation of the Mormon Church. It's eventually, I think, what did Joseph Smith in the end, where he was headed when they were coming to get him. He had escaped and crossed over the Mississippi River and was headed to the Rocky Mountains, and he was going to just flee for his own safety, and they called him back. And basically, his brethren dressed him down as a coward, taking off. And he famously said, "Well, if my life means nothing to me, or to my friends, it means nothing to me." And he knew he was done for. And then he was shot. They shot him up, and he fell out the window not soon thereafter. But if the saints themselves had more FTS, follow the Spirit, they would seek for their own, follow the Spirit in their own accord and have the stability that the Lord can give you when you're following the Spirit in your own life. And this is why.
On that note, I'm not trying to be critical, but when religion and politics come together, unless we follow the Spirit, unless we're very careful and very wise, it's like bringing gunpowder and fire together, or gasoline and fire. And, we just need to be very wise and very careful. And I'm not trying to push against the unification of politics and religion, but it can be a real powder keg.
Yeah. One of the things we have talked about is the faith orientation's ability to check the knee-jerk state socialistic impulse. In that the people's, if there is a faith orientation in there, help with a safety net or provide for the homeless or help them have hope. When they have God in their lives, they that gives you hope for the future. And if you're helping with help them, it's so the vibrancy, and then keeping it decentralized from the governmental fascist, socialistic authoritarianism. But if you have that in a decentralized network, the faith orientation can help check that knee-jerk state socialistic impulse. And if people FTS. So get your FTS rings. Call us at 816-674-3035. We have them here. That's FTS for Follow the Spirit. The Holy Spirit, Follow the Spirit. FTS. Call us at 8.
I'm no longer a Brighamite Mormon. I do believe that there is great truth throughout many and all of the different groups. But just to say positive things about the Mormons, when you talk about state socialist types of things, the Mormon Church has some enormous tools and some wonderful programs to help families, and so they should be commended, and we should.
Sure.
I sustain and I honor the good that the Mormons do have. They are not perfect. I will tell you that. I know that without a doubt. But that aside, they have some amazing things, and I'm grateful that I grew up as a Brighamite Mormon. But we as Brighamite Mormons, we don't understand the incredible aspects of these other things that are all around us that the world offers, and we often stick to ourselves and we study only our things, and we don't look at other things and open our minds. But there is so much beauty and goodness out there amongst all these the other breakoffs of Mormonism, Christianity. I mean, there's goodness scattered across the entire world. So,
yeah, for sure. We are here with, for those that have just tuned in, this is the Property Therapy Show. We are here with Jeff Foli, the former two-term mayor of Chillicothe, and we're talking about the history of faith orientation of the Restoration, which is the classically called as the Mormons. And that term was initially coined by the adversaries of the church, right? Like, you darn Mormons, believers of the Book of Mormon. So it was.
Well, I don't know if you will blip this out, Adam, but I would like to say what I believe. So, I believe all things. I believe in the admonition of Paul, where he said, "We believe all things, but we don't seek after all things." Paul said, "We seek after that which is virtuous, lovely, of good report, and praiseworthy." I am a believer in multiple dimensions and parallel realities. So if someone, I believe all of our realities are self-manifesting and self-reinforcing daily. So if somebody shares something with me, my point, since I believe these things and I've had certain understandings and experiences, I don't try to fight with people, but if someone shares something with me that's not within my immediate reality or within my paradigm, I categorize it out to the side. Someday I might have to revisit that subject and look at it from a little different perspective. But I do believe all things, but I only seek after those things which are vibratory, upward moving things to lead me to Christ and to help me to become a better person. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, the Holy Spirit can witness to you of something that there's something of eternal or something of light, or to go down a particular path, and you can't necessarily articulate it in your head up front. But later on, if you keep on sensing that, following the Spirit, it starts to seep in. The reasons for things and the understanding comes later on.
Let me get back to my point. If something does not lead us to Christ and to become better people, I say we don't put it, we don't envelop it, and we don't embrace it and totally. I'm just saying, I think we seek after that which is virtuous, lovely, of good report, and praiseworthy. So that's my test, and the scriptures that we've been given, those things are very important to me. But that doesn't mean that I'm afraid to look at any other information. So I'm very curious if somebody brings something to me I've had some crazy experiences myself, but I don't try to go around and drive people crazy by sharing those things, and they'll think I'm a fruitcake, but. And that's okay. I mean, I'm just trying to do the best that I can with what I've been given, and it's so wonderful. It's freeing. It allows me to love other people, because as they have their paradigm, I tell them what my foundation is, and if that's how theirs is, then we can hopefully see more eye to eye and not fight and not argue with each other.
So we're talking with Jeff Foli. He's the former mayor of Chillicothe, the only libertarian candidate to win a partisan election in Missouri history. And
And I would like to say some things about politics.
like what got you into politics?
Politics can be a very dirty game. I absolutely know it. I've had death threats in my mailbox, and people, the good old boys will try to make you part of their group. I'm going to tell you right now, if you have political aspirations, they will, if you start winning and you become an important person, part of the clique, they will invite you in, and everybody wants to be special. Everybody wants to be, a policeman, not to look at them and not to give them a ticket. But I told the police, I said, if I deserve a ticket, you give me a ticket. But if you're going to give the guys in Little Italy a ticket and the poor part of town, I think you should give the attorneys, the bankers, the judges, and all people a ticket for the same infraction. So, I mean, my standards are hard, but it cuts both ways. I have to keep my nose clean as well. So now when it comes to maybe a business deal or something like that, if somebody has grown their business and shown that they're competent and able, maybe you give them a little different look than somebody who hasn't had experience or whatever. But if you're doing 95 in a 25 mile an hour zone, I don't really care what your last name is or what you own. So politically, I was not well liked, but that's okay. I mean, I accept my lot, and I cannot compromise what I believe my standards are. And my best friends try to hold me responsible to higher standards. So I think if we're going to create a heaven on earth, we need to be learn to be and be challenged to be some people of the highest standards that are around. So, but this is our challenge. This is the challenge of humanity: is to either sell our pot of porridge or to uphold goodness and righteousness.
Yeah, that's what Jesus talked about, being not a respecter of persons. That's his, but of conduct. Regardless, like if you're speeding, you're speeding. Regardless of who the person is, it's the conduct. That's what Jesus was talking about, not being a respecter of persons, but of conduct. And that's why Lady Liberty wears that. Wears the or the justice with the scales. She's blind, so she's not seeing what the parties look like, what the persons are, just weighing what the evidence, and that's being not a respecter of person. And I remember my grandpa was a majority whip of the state legislature of Utah, and he was an attorney. And he was the guy that put forth the bill to allow people to legally turn right on a red light in the state of Utah. But when he first got elected and became in the legislature, a man comes into his office and he threw this big wad of bills, as bigger than your fist. He took it out and he just slammed it down on his desk. He says, "There you go." And my grandpa was like, "What the heck?" So my grandpa picked up the wad of bills and just threw it in the guy's chest and said, "Get out of my office." And so you think that stuff's not going on in our time? Oh no.
It is. When it comes to property therapy, Adam, I was strongly compelled to move to independence for the literal gathering of Israel and the restoration of the tribes of Israel. So I purchased a little house, and I come to find out this house was supposedly one of the oldest houses in Independence, just north of the courthouse, built in 1827, purchased by the early Mormons, Joseph Smith, and created and turned into a house of learning. And that's exactly what I have tried to model it after. So it's a fantastic thing. It's a place for people to come and ponder. And I got my degree in theology, my doctorate, and I'm pursuing another doctorate in philosophy. So I believe we ought to come together and reason as one man reasoneth with another about the doctrines of the kingdom, as I would put it, and talk about how we should and what we should be and how we should be. So anyways, property therapy. This house is fantastic, and supposedly it's 200 years old. So
Yeah, so I've been in this house, and it exemplifies positive property therapy issues of like how you're going to realize your dreams or how you're going to define a house. And when you go into this house, they have you've got a impressive library there, and also some interactive depictions of the 12 tribes of Israel. And
we have a ladder on the ceiling, Adam. We have a ladder on the ceiling.
Yeah, it's the only house that I know of here that has a ladder that's screwed into the ceiling when you walk in to the living room, and it signifies Jacob's ladder. So you
Israel
and Israel, yeah.
And on each wall, I have one of the wives of Jacob, of Israel. You know, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah, and I have all their sons on the walls. Each wife of Jacob, I have each son with their mothers. So it's fantastic to ponder on the literal gathering of Israel and the restoration of the tribes.
This is exhibiting what we talk about on the show about property being a talent harbor to develop your talents and dreams in all sorts of ways. If you hadn't had this property, you couldn't express this interactive art collection.
We have amazing artwork on the wall.
It's incredible, and like you have the picture of the Judah, the glorious lion on the east wall. You have the house of Judah there, and then the Reuben, you have and then you have the shield up there. It's a shield that's, I would say it's 2.5 feet in diameter. And what's that signify? What tribe is that?
We have a shield representing Ephraim, but on the west wall we have Levi Judah. We have a shofar exemplifying Levi, and a staff representing Judah. This is the sons of Leah, and then we have
for those
Reuben, which is
the shofar. For those that are listening, that's the horn of the Udu horn, which is it's kind of like a ram-like species that's endemic to Africa. And
we have Picasso's blue nude representing Reuben, because Reuben fell into seduction with his mother-in-law Bilhah. So each tribe has positive and negative aspects, and they are exemplified. Their names were given them by their mothers. Jacob gave them blessings, and Moses gave them blessings. So each tribe has a variety of information associated with each.
And there's
and then we have Simeon, Issachar, who's represented by a statue pondering, which is scholarship. And then we have Simeon represented by swords, a warrior. And we have Zebulun, who's represented by ships by the sea. That's just one wall. So
love it. And I love the people in the American Heritage Center community. We've had one person we've toured on the property therapy tours has plant libraries, or a couple of people, extraordinary plant libraries. Some we've talked about. She grows oranges in her house and plucks the buds off to keep them diminutive, to keep the plants, the orange tree growing in the 5-gallon bucket, and the avocados does the same thing, and then tool libraries. Anyway, so with Jeff's house, we have the interactive faith orientation library that's reminiscent of the 12 tribes of Israel, that depicts that in like the scriptures, and so it's faith orientation brought in a very interactive, really unique way.
And people are invited. If people would like to come and look at this and talk about some of these things, these are important aspects of what I feel the Spirit leads me, is to look into what God did with Israel and what He's going to do with Israel. And it's fabulous, and it's important to me, and I would be happy to have anybody come and share their understanding and listen and critique mine. If something I have isn't right, I'm open to listening.
To take a property therapy tour of Jeff's house, call me at 816-674-3035. And also call to get your FTS rings at 816-674-3035. So you just got your FTS engraved on your ring, didn't you, Jeff?
I have a CTR ring, which is a Mormon CTR ring, which means choose the right. And I took it to the jeweler. I bought it from the Mormon church when I was younger. And I took it to the jeweler and I said, please engrave FTS on this ring to go along with it. So, how do you know how to choose the right if you don't follow the Spirit? How do you know how to CTR if you don't FTS first? So I think that's an important thing, and it's fabulous. It's a powerful thought for us to consider and think about.
So, yeah, we are going on property therapy tours. We take people on property therapy tours, and we, Jeff and I, we took a group up there to North in Jamesport, and we viewed some an Amish honesty fruit stand or a vegetable stand, didn't we?
Fabulous to go to a store, an outdoor market where you can purchase vegetables, and it's an honor system, and you just stick your money in a box, and you bag up your own vegetables and take them. I mean, you could steal all you wanted there, but these Amish people have been doing this for 30 years now, and it's went well enough that they haven't had to shut it down. So it is an honor system. It's fabulous, and I think that is very much how we should learn how to live. It's a handshake again.
It's beautiful. There's nobody there. It's a vegetable stand on the countryside of a country road, and all these glorious vegetables in their boxes of jalapenos, boxes of spaghetti squash, lots of pumpkins, all sorts of extraordinary. It's like a farmer's market, but nobody's there.
It's Amish automation. They have no need for robots. They just honor system.
And that's one of the things that Joseph Smith talked, that they were at the same time they were amazed at Joseph Smith that there was a lot of that going on with the saints as well. And they said, well, why aren't you micromanaging or led more than what's going on? I expected not. I was surprised to find this. And he says, well, I teach them correct principles and they govern themselves. And this is like, if you have that in your life, like the FTS, and if you're truly FTS, I'm not saying that this happens all the time, that there's not churchianity that gets in the church, which is not of Christianity. But if you're truly FTS, you know what's supposed to be and what's correct to behave, And the more we overcome, you move on in life and gain more and more wisdom. And that's what this life's all about, overcoming. And all of us come into this world with, I believe, we request certain weaknesses for us to work on, or like we've observed before we come into this world, different people failing in different ways. So we request to go into this world with specific weaknesses so we can challenges so that we can overcome. And and we know that we're going to experience certain courses of challenges. Like, for instance, like if you're born into the world in as a certain race, you know that you're going to have judgment coming upon you, more likely to come upon you. And so that you would come out of that more likely to not judge others because you've experienced that. So you'd be more like to judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Because you could see that how you've experienced that in your entire life. So you would walk away to be more careful what's going on. And that's one of the things my dad experienced when he was doing his street ministry for 20 years on the streets. He noticed that when he was playing his guitar in the streets, the black police officers were less likely to hassle him than the white police officers. The white police officer would come in and just like fuss and just annoy him. But the black police officers would just leave him alone. Just let him do his thing. Let him play his beautiful classical guitar music in the streets. And so there's some of that going on. He also observed that the younger black men were were also more likely to hassle him, though. The black police officers were less likely to hassle him, but the younger black men were more likely to hassle him and try to steal his money from the case. And he didn't want it to be that way, but he just observed that it's more likely to be that way. And there was even a court case that one of the guys that tried to steal his money, he chased him down. He grabbed and then they prosecute him for theft for stealing. But it's FTS. It's about FTS, and that's what this show is all about. That property therapy matters, and if you hadn't had property therapy, you wouldn't have that amazing library, our interactive, three-dimensional library in your house, and all this extraordinary history. It's so rich, and so give us a call to get involved and get part of the to join in on the conversation. Call me at 816-674-3035 and tune in on our YouTube channel.
Our YouTube channel, you can find us under Property Therapy Show. Just type that in your search box on YouTube or on Facebook and become a part of our community on there, and send us some pictures. You can check out our pictures. You can leave us comments. You can tell us your stories. Maybe even be on the show.
Yeah.
We're always looking for new guests to tell their story on how property therapy has worked for them in their lives, or how we can help them learn the aspects of property therapy so they can improve their lives.
And also give us a call to reserve your place on the our property therapy tours that we take people throughout the region and bring history alive. So we're very...
Thank you for this opportunity, Adam and John. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's amazing having you. You've been really inspiring. You've brought history alive for us with the saints.
Definitely.
And given also the background, the other side of the story, which is really, really a unique and precious perspective. Thanks for that interview, Jeff.
Yeah, good to hear from you again, Jeff.
And faith orientation is something that affects profoundly the property therapist's morale. And also something else that can affect the property therapist's morale is like good music, good food. And along those lines of good music, here's the first radio show. Here's a recording of the first radio show that I ever did.
Yeah, we dug this up out of the archives. It was on a cassette tape. We had to borrow a cassette player, and I digitized it. And it's available on YouTube as a separate little 10-minute audio recording. It's not really a video because it's audio from the radio, but you can go back and listen to that. We're going to play it here on the show and kind of do some comments over it. So here it is.
Here is the first radio show that I ever did. This is 20 years ago, right when I was out of high school. I'm 18 years old.
Good afternoon and welcome to KCUR's news program, Up to Date. I'm Mary Jo Draper. Today, a look at a new strategy for fighting crime in the metro area and ideas for reducing violence in our area's schools. We'll also hear about a Kansas City play that went to New York, preview an upcoming movie based in Kansas, and say goodbye to Kansas City Symphony conductor William McLaughlin. Ann Manson takes over her duties in the summer of 1999. She'll replace William McLaughlin, who conducted the symphony for more than a decade. Many people in Kansas City will miss McLaughlin's style, both musical and personal. Among them, UMKC Conservatory violin student and commentator Adam Sheffield, who says the Kansas City community should be grateful for having known Bill McLaughlin.
McLaughlin is known for getting in touch with younger people. I even remember him bringing the Kansas City Symphony to my high school a number of times to work with us.
You hear my young voice?
The symphony had a residency with Paseo Academy, Kansas City's performing arts school.
18-year-old.
I even recall him
Very
letting me
NPR.
and some of my friends perform in concert with the symphony. This was a highlight in my musical development in high school. McLaughlin says he enjoys working with kids.
The most important thing I think of all, Adam, is that in music, any of us who've been lucky enough to make a career of any sort always have had 2 or 3 or 4 people really important to our development through teachers, some sort of inspirational conductor, composer whom you've worked with, whatever. And there's no way ever to pay them back, to pay that individual back for all the time and energy and caring that they've given you. The only thing you can do is hope to pass it on.
Professional musicians in Kansas City have also benefited from McLaughlin's years here. Symphony concertmaster Tiberius Klausner says McLaughlin will be missed.
He is such a promoter of contemporary American music, and I learned a lot of new works that he introduced me to, a lot of interesting works that I did not play, and I wouldn't have played otherwise. He listened, and he gave you, many times, he gave you carte blanche musically if he trusted you.
That was my first, one of my first violin teachers, Tiberius Klausner. He was the concertmaster of the Kansas City Symphony.
Like with my bowing, for instance, which is a major part of my position. And I spent many hours on that, and he gave me free hand to bow.
In this recording of the symphony playing Aaron Copland's Fanfare for the Common Man, you can hear McLaughlin's passion and depth. This piece was written during the dark times of World War II when Hitler looked unstoppable. Copland, who was Jewish, wrote this piece to oppose the brutal Nazi dictator and stir the souls of the common man in defiance. McLaughlin evokes the rising, soul-stirring cadences like a triumphant call to arms against tyranny. Has the heart of a musician. Classical CD magazine calls him a consummate musical personage. Yet, some symphony members say they regret McLaughlin didn't fraternize with big fish money holders here in Kansas City in order to get funding for the new symphony hall he promised them.
And that hall would be the Kaufman Center, that's now built. So this is 20 years before the Kaufman Center was built, the beautiful Kaufman Center. It looks like two football helmets.
Yeah.
They're glorious.
Also, the most prominent...
So that Kaufman Center would then be built under the conductor, the violinist, the famous violinist. It slips my mind.
Local critic wasn't always so kind.
He's the son of the
Kansas
famous
City
violinist.
Star music critic Scott Cantrell said McLaughlin had a notoriously fuzzy beat. While there's a place for criticism, Cantrell too often seemed to cross the line from judgment to jaundice. McLaughlin said it was frustrating Cantrell didn't seem to recognize that the orchestra was playing better and better every season. He felt the critic tended to get caught up in the technicalities of the piece, rather than seeing the bigger picture. Nevertheless, as if demonstrating the pen is not mightier than the baton, conductor McLaughlin has survived the criticism and left a formidable legacy of performing and premiering contemporary works. He put together creative and interesting programs greater than the sum of their individual parts.
I think it's our great privilege to present work of our own time. It's not the easiest thing because orchestra is a big institution, and institutions tend to be bureaucracies. If they're going to run well, you have to have some kind of bureaucracy in place.
McLaughlin's nationally syndicated radio show has helped him communicate both verbally and musically with listeners, and to dig up interesting pieces and solos for the Kansas City Symphony, and vice versa.
Hello, my friends. I'm Bill McLaughlin. Welcome to St. Paul Sunday.
Maestro McLaughlin has made solid contributions both to the community and orchestra. The average tenure of an American conductor is about 9 years. McLaughlin has been with the symphony for 12. As he steps down, he says he'll still be doing St. Paul Sunday morning and some guest conducting and composing.
For one thing, I've been in the Midwest since 1975 when I came to work with the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. I've either been in St. Paul or Kansas City that whole time, over 20 years. So I think for a little while, for a little change of pace, we're moving to New York City. And when I say we, I mean my friend Corin Allison, the great jazz singer who's about to take on the Big Apple. I am very interested in composing, and it's something that's very hard for me to do when I'm studying other people's music all the time.
Asked what advice he would give the symphony's new conductor, Ann Manson, McLaughlin says not much.
Oh man, Ann Manson is the stuff. I mean, she's elegant, she's smart, she's gifted. Physically, she's a brilliant conductor. Musically, I think she's quite deep. Advice to Ann, there's no advice I could give her she doesn't already know. I would just sort of give her encouragement, say, keep going for it. Whatever your vision is, just follow it. Because she's good, and this orchestra really wants to play. And I can't wait to watch the development of the next stage of the Kansas City Symphony under its new music director.
McLaughlin says he won't be pursuing another maestroship right away. But when we hear his talent on the Symphony's American Voices CD, we are assured that, when he's ready, another conductorship will likely present itself. Certainly, with his exceptional talents and congeniality, there's a place for him, somewhere. For KCR News, I'm Adam Sheffield.
Commentator and UMKC violin student Adam Sheffield produced this tribute to Kansas City Symphony conductor William McLaughlin. McLaughlin's leaving Kansas City.
So you caught that at the end there, is that there will be a place for him somewhere. Yeah. And then somewhere comes in the background from West Side Story. Somewhere there's a do-do-do-do. So I was a kid, I was an 18-year-old kid, and what amazes me back when I think about that show is that somehow the owner of the radio station, KCUR, trusted me enough with her $1,000
their portable tape recorder,
her high-end recording equipment. And I remember when I interviewed this is back before the compact digital age. It's 20 years ago, and it was like the size of a suitcase. Really high-end recording for its time. And I remember when I interviewed Maestro McLaughlin, he walked in and his eyes bugged out. He's like, "Where did you get that? That's some nice equipment right there."
He took you seriously, huh?
Yeah, he said, "Where did you get that stuff?" And then I started asking him all these questions about the politics of the this and that, and he was like, "I had no idea you're going to ask me. You're asking me some zingers." and the radio station, the manager of the station, she's like, "I was expecting you to just have these commentary, this effulgent commentary, happy, but you're really delving into like the criticisms of what's going on." And she said, "You could have a career in this."
A career in hard-hitting journalism, if that ever became of anything, but these days it doesn't seem to exist.
And so it was amazing. It was amazing that she trusted me with that recording equipment. Imagine like an 18-year-old kid that comes in. You never even met this person before. But our sponsor for this radio show, it's brought to you by La Plaza Restaurant, International Cuisine. Voted the best Latin food in Kansas City, and they're at 1100 East Winter Road, Independence, Missouri. Give them a call at 816-836-8688, or you can access them online.
www.restaurantlaplaza.com www.restaurantlaplaza.com. It's right across from the Inglewood Theater there on Winter Road. We ate there a couple weeks ago. It was awesome.
So this is part of the morale of the property therapist can be affected by good food or by faith orientation. What we talked with Jeff Foli today.
Yeah, intelligent, very intelligent guy. I can see how he won 2 terms as mayor, even on an independent Libertarian Party.
And the fact that he has such a connection with all these diverse faith orientations, and it's very special.
He's the kind of guy that can bring people together.
Yeah, he's a catalyst. he's a catalyst, Jeff the Catalyst.
Yeah, it's too bad there's not more politicians like that with that attitude of bringing people together for the actual greater good, but not in a socialistic way, in a property therapy way.
So this has been a show about building the morale of the property therapists with faith orientation and with the good music, with the Kansas City Symphony, bidding Maestro McLaughlin adieu, and then the good food can also affect the morale of the property therapist.
That's right.
Their sponsor, La Plaza Restaurant.
It's been a fun show. Find us on Facebook and YouTube at Property Therapy Show, and we'll see you guys next week.